I would now like to request our next speaker to say a few words. We remember him as a commentator in the good old days, and I particularly have some great memories of him. The tour of Pakistan in 1984-85 when Mr. Gavaskar was captain, and he in fact played his 100th test at Lahore. But that tour was unfortunately abandoned due to the assassination of the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi. And he had a distinguished commentary career. I think the Hero Cup 1993 is another event that I can recall. A lot of cricket matches that were played in the 80s and of course during the 1987 World Cup. And I think he was also doing commentary when Mr. Gavaskar completed his 10,000 run in Test cricket. So please give a big hand to Mr. Fredun De Vitre.
Good evening, friends. Or as he reminded me, I should be saying hi, friends, which is what I always started my sports roundup with, and which for more than 20 years after I stopped, Sunil would, whenever he met me, he would never call me by my name. He would always say, hi, friends, and we would greet each other. You know, I feel, speaking to you just now, after such a scintillating address from the earlier speakers and particularly from my immediately preceding speaker, Mr. Bharat Nadkarni, I feel a little like that out-of-form batsman who has to go in and bat after a brilliant innings from Sunil Gavaskar. So you can understand that Mr. Nadkarni's brilliant speech or brilliant talk was very entertaining, very illuminating. Now, as far as I am concerned, of course, I knew Sunil. I saw him first, in fact, in 1967 or 68 when he played for the Indian universities against, I think it was Graham Dowling's team from New Zealand at the Wankhede Stadium. When Mr. Vijay Merchant, as the chairman of the selectors, said, catch him young. And Sunil, Ramesh Nagdev, Ashok Gandotra, Ramesh Saxena, a whole lot of youngsters had come in, and Sunil performed very well in that series. And then, of course, he went to the West Indies later and became... to my mind, Sunil was the greatest Indian batsman of his generation. He and Kapil Dev were the two people who had the greatest impact on Indian cricket during the time that they played. And, of course, Sunil has had a greater impact on Indian cricket, lasting much longer. What struck one when Sunil was batting, and of course you have experts here, so it's not really for me to say, but I remember Neville Cardis once saying of Mushtaq Mohammad of Pakistan, who was also a very elegant batsman, that he had an instinctive ability to identify length. And I think Sunil had that instinctive ability to identify length because he was always in the right place for the right stroke. Whether it was an aggressive stroke or a defensive stroke, it was impossible to catch Sunil out of position when he decided to play. And I think what struck me most when watching him, because I did my first commentary in television commentary, test match commentary, as far back as in February 1973 against Tony Lewis's side at the Wankhede Stadium. And what struck one when Sunil played was the fact that he was perhaps the most disciplined player. You know, people talk of his concentration, and his concentration was legendary. But I think it was his discipline. Because if he decided that he wanted to eschew a shot, he would never play that shot. He would never be tempted, no matter what the bowler bowled, he would never play that shot. He would duck to a short ball. And it's very interesting because in 1983, after we beat West Indies in the World Cup, there was the revenge tour of 1983, and I did 4 out of the 6 test matches as commentary. And I didn't do the Delhi test. But in the Delhi test, we saw a different Sunil. We saw a Sunil we had not seen before. Because he scored 121, as you all know, and he scored the 5th fastest century in Test cricket at that time. And Malcolm Marshall bowling to him on a lively sort of Firozshah Kotla ground. And in the very first over, Sunil hit him for 1-4 and 1-6. And Marshall sort of looked so bewildered. He said, "Ye kya ho raha hai? I mean, this guy is not supposed to hit me on an opening day of a Test match in this fashion." And it was there that he had put his hook stroke into cold storage for a long time. He removed it. He took it out of cold storage, and he hooked brilliantly in that innings. I remember in 74-75 when West Indies were here, he scored 236 at Madras, and he had opened against these fast bowlers, and he made a special request to the selectors just before the Madras Test, or he had made it a little earlier, but they had not acceded to his request. He said, "Look, let somebody else open. Please let me go 4 down. I want to bat in the middle order. Just for this test or from onwards, I'm now aging or whatever, but please let me go lower down." So they finally relented. And they said, "All right, you can bat at number 4. So he walked out to bat at number 4. And you know what the India score was? 0 for 2. Because both Anshuman Gaikwad and Dilip Vengsarkar had been out of the first ball in the first over. So he walked out at 0 for 2. And Viv Richards, who was there, as Sunil recounted later, walked up to him and said, "Hey man, no matter what you come, whatever position you come, India will still be 0 when you come out to bat." So there was the Jayanti, of course, was there in the 1971 tour when Sunil did brilliantly and scored those 774 runs in his inaugural series. But he had told us, and I'm sure those of you who regularly attend Legend Club meetings will recall at the Brabants at the CCI, when he said that he was a youngster in that side, and they had all been sort of primed up about the fast bowling in the West Indies, and of course Jaisima, Durrani, and Sardesai were the seniors in the side in that sense. So he said in the very first game, I think it was Doe and Shillingford or the fast bowlers over there. And as he said, you had to look above a certain sort of level. You had to climb up and see who was bowling and what the bowling was. And he said we were all youngsters looking at it. And suddenly we asked Dilip to have a look at the bowling. And he said, Dilip got up and he said, "What do you think of the bowling?" And he said, "Cheh, Popatwadi attack hai." And he said that changed our entire complexion. And we looked upon the West Indian fast bowlers in a completely different light after that remark from Sardesai. And of course, Sardesai proved that it was in fact a Popatwadi attack with the way he scored in that series. Sunil always said that his favorite opening partner was Chetan Chauhan. They were in many ways contrasting styles, in many ways but they gelled very well together. As somebody said Ray Robinson said of Vijay Merchant and Mushtaq Ali, that Merchant was very, very dour, very straightforward in his bat. Mushtaq Ali, as we all know, was very flamboyant. And Ray Robinson wrote that Mushtaq Ali and Merchant are as different from each other as Indian curry is from Indian rice, but just as effective in combination. So Sunil and Chetan were always very effective in combination. They was one of the best opening partnerships. And he always said that on the Australia tour, I think it was in 1970, probably 70s, I'm sorry, my memory is fading now. In 77, when Thomo and Lilly were playing against India, he said Chetan had this habit of needling the bowlers. He would say something stupid to them. He would sort of needle them. And he said, I had to sort of take my bat, walk down the pitch and say, "Arey Baba, tana nako sang asta," because they are taking it out on me, not on you. They are bombarding me with bouncers and whatever, and they're all taking it out on me. So you keep your mouth shut now for some time. And there were so many of these sort of stories. But Sunil started with a bang in the 70s. I personally thought that his innings of 221 was an unbelievable innings. I mean, to imagine the match situation at that time, to get to even remotely near a target of 438, and many believe that we were deprived of what should have been a win. But it was a monumental innings, and only a very, very great batsman could have played that innings. But as Vijay said in his opening remarks, anyone who has seen, and unfortunately I wasn't in Bangalore, you know, I had interviewed Sunil many times when I was with Sports Week. I have interviewed him. I happened to be on the air when he passed Jeff Boycott's highest test score at that test runs of 8,113, I think, and he got it at Ahmedabad against Pakistan. I was on the air when he got his 10,000th run, which was, I mean, today maybe many people have got 10,000, but don't ever forget that Sunil was the one who got it first, and it was a remarkable achievement in that series. But I think, I remember interviewing him, and we were talking, and I asked him something. I think he had done something which the board had disapproved of, because Sunil was very outspoken. He was always up for players' rights. And he had done something, I can't recall at the moment what it was that he had said or done, which the board had reprimanded him. And there was some talk that they were going to drop him. So I said, Sunil, what will happen? I mean, are you going to quit? Are you going to... So he said, look, I am not going to let anybody push me out of this game. I will go when I want to go. And it was obvious that, I mean, he was determined that he would only do what he wanted to do and would quit the game when he was. And he did so remarkably. People talk of his entry and the brilliant entry. But if you ask me, his exit was even greater, because as Vijay said, that innings of 96 that he played at Bangalore in his last test showed that he was at the peak of his form. He could have carried on for much longer. He played on a minefield of a wicket, and India almost pulled it off, losing at the end by 16 runs. When you see that scoreboard, you realize what the magnitude of those 96 runs was. There is a lovely film, for those of you who haven't watched the match, of just Sunil's innings and just his batting. And I suggest that all of you should have a look at that video. So I think his going out, and then of course he went and played in England at Lord's in that what was a festival match, but quite a serious match, and scored 100 in that match after he had retired. So I think Sunil's career, from the time he came in, which was of course brilliant, to the time that he left was of course brilliant. And he has, of course, as everybody knows, he has contributed a great deal. He was the captain in 1984, as Devendra said, when we went to Pakistan and we did the Faisalabad test match. And of course, we had to return early because, as he said, there was an unfortunate assassination of Mrs. Gandhi. But he was a very astute captain. I remember celebrating Diwali in Pakistan with the entire team in Faisalabad or Lahore or wherever it was. But today he, of course, celebrates his 75th birthday. And I think all of us would join him if we had the facility of a return video. I think we would all sing in unison, happy birthday to him, and join him and wish him many, many more successes and many, many more happy and healthy years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rusi Bangera would like to narrate one anecdote related to Mr. Gavaskar.
Since none of the speakers touched this, I expected them to do, particularly Freddie. I'm sure you must have heard about it. But for the benefit of those who started the cricket late, after 90s, I think it will be a news to them. Besides being a the legendary batsman and a disciplinarian, he was a very witty person, always. And the biggest example of that wit was at one of the dinner meetings held in Pakistan, when India went to Pakistan to play against them. Before, of course, Sachin toured them. It must be in late 70s or in the 80s. It's a true story. First, Imran and Gavaskar were leading the two sides. So Imran first started speaking during just before the dinner. And those days, Gavaskar and Vishwanath were doing extremely well in spite of the very difficult wickets. I mean, the situation, particularly the bowling of Sarfaraz and Imran. And they were doing extremely well. So Imran said, very frankly, I am telling you, if I had Gavaskar and Vishwanath in my team, I would defeat any team in the world. So when Sunil's time came to speak, Sunil said, if I had two Pakistani umpires, I would defeat any team in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now have a special release. I would like to request Dr. Vijay Patil and Jayantilal sir to release a special keychain. I would also like to invite Ms. Aditi Merchant to do the honors with Dr. Vijay Patil and Jayanti sir and the three representatives of Lavas requesting who have sponsored today's session. I would like to request the keychains to be unveiled, please. I would like to request Ms. Aditi Merchant to present a keychain to each of the speakers. And Mr. Kedar Gupte, once again, please come forward.
Last time you were the speaker, we missed his presentation.
And the Lavas representatives, please. Mr. Shetty from Nagpur. So he wants to make a presentation to Marcus. Miss Aditi Merchant. And I would like to request Ms. Merchant to make a presentation to Fredun, sir.